Hey guys, so this is another video about some of the things that trouble me about Sharia in Islam. Sharia is a very popular subject, of course, about people who are anti-Islam. Um, so I'll tell you my mindset when I was a Muslim and when I used to look at these things and used to read these arguments. Common thing I thought, and it's actually true, is that a lot of people dissing dissing Sharia, so to speak, or so they dissing. People don't like, maybe the people don't like those slang terms. People disparaging Sharia. Um, a lot of them didn't really know what they were talking about. A lot of them will say, "Well, you just got stoned to death, someone who's adultery," but it's not telling the full story, which it isn't. There's such things. You have to have four witnesses who, who simultaneously see it, etc. Seeing the penis going into the vagina, and then only then that's classed as adultery, but the penalty is stoning to death. So I would, as a Muslim, I would say, yeah, the reason is they don't understand that there's very strict rules in place which will make it almost impossible. The key is almost impossible. That's one of the things that I acknowledge, but I didn't really want to acknowledge because it would destroy my whole, it would call into question my belief system. There were many things that I would come across that just didn't make sense to me. Things like the people being, you're allowed to have slaves in Islam. You're allowed to have sex with slaves in Islam if you're a man. You're allowed to have sex with the slaves that you have. Not if you're a woman, if you're a man. Things like women, their witness, a woman being witness in court, there has to be two of them in order to make up one witness. In order to have the weight of one witness, it has to be two women. But a man, only one man for one witness. Things like the Hadith that, can't remember the exact quote. I'll post all these, so you'll see these in the link. I'll post some good links to all these. That, if a man goes to bed and calls his wife to bed, basically to sleep with her, and she refuses, and he goes to bed angry, the angels curse her till the morning. Things like that. Things like, what else was there? There was, the big one. I'd say, what else was there? The big one is, if you leave the religion, you get killed. So let's just go through a couple of them and just my personal response. I'm not going to quote the Hadith, I'm not going to quote exact, but I'll just tell you my responses of looking into them and the answers I got and what my response to those answers were. Okay, well, onto apostasy. Well, I asked them, someone who's a trained imam, I've read up on this with different, written responses from different scholars. You can find them all online. And they said, basically, well, yes, that is true, but there are very strict rules in place. Basically, they have to call someone back to the religion if they refuse. For I think a few days they're either put in prison, or when they refuse to go back to the religion, they disagree with it, then you kill them. Yeah. And also praying. If someone stops praying, either in prison, then we'll kill them. Those are two major responses. Same with apostasy, either imprisonment or killing them. But they would probably say, for such strict rules will make it almost impossible. But people do get killed. People did in the time of Prophet Muhammad. They did get killed for leaving the religion, and it has happened throughout history. So people do get killed, and as you always know, no justice system is perfect, and there are miscarriages of justice. So, even that, even if you say, well, it has very strict rules, maybe someone won't adhere to the rules. Maybe there'll be corrupt judges and corrupt people. So maybe the rules won't be adhered to. Also, the issue of slavery with having sex with a slave woman. The Imam in Malaysia, he had a opinion, I believe is the minority opinion, that you have to be married regardless of a slave or not. You can marry a slave then have sex with her. That's if you combine the verses of that say it's okay to have sex with a slave, plus the verses that you can only have sex with your wife. If you combine the two together, then that means that you can only get married or something similar to that. That's the minority opinion. It's a nice opinion, but it's a minority opinion. In my opinion. From what I've seen, they all say, yeah, it's fine. You can have sex with, you don't even have to marry them. You don't even have to take care of the kid if they have a child. They basically can just have sex with a slave if you get her. So, and I'd read things like Life of the Prophet Muhammad, where, I think it's Sophia, one of his wives, they killed a group, the tribe, and they captured the women. And one of the women was Sophia, and the Prophet Muhammad married her and had sex with her. personally have a hard time believing, and this is not just Prophet Muhammad, if some of his followers also had the same thing. They would capture slaves and have sex with slaves. Well, the slaves were captured through war. It was only when they wiped out the men, they would capture the slaves, and they capture the children, the men and the children, the women and children as slaves. And, the men would sleep with the women. I have a really hard time believing that someone who's just witnessed or heard about their family being slaughtered, or killed, justly or unjustly, would want to sleep with the people who did it or carried out the military campaign. I have a really hard time believing anyone sane would do that. I just don't believe, unless their emotional makeup was radically different to people in the modern age, which I don't really think is true. If you know someone's killed a member of your family or participated in it, you're not gonna marry them. You're not gonna sleep with them. I find it really difficult to believe that their mindset was completely sincere. I have a very difficult time believing that. Excuse me. Things like that would really bother me, and I would hear the responses, and they just seem like rationalizations to me. But I believe, I was sort of in the mindset where I used to follow Sufism, so I was like, this beautiful spirituality is here, but this religion has to be beautiful. So these rules, maybe they really are that hard that they're impossible to carry out. Then I did a bit of a sporadic search into slavery in Islam, and I realized, damn, slavery in Islam went on for years. Thousands of years. The only reason why it stopped was because Western political forces, got the Ottomans to outlaw slavery. That's the only reason why. Even though Muslims say, well, it was eventually supposed to wipe out slavery. The only reason why it was outlawed was in the Ottoman Empire, which is one of the largest empires in the world, actually, in any civilization, and the largest Muslim empire, was because the Western political forces implored them to do it. So I was like, what? I can't believe this. People put the argument forth, well, if you look at the Quran, and it always encourages people to free slaves and give slaves a good life and things like this. Regardless if it tells people to treat slaves well, they're still slaves. You still own them. You shouldn't own another human being. And even if it encourages people to give up slaves, it's not legislation for them to give up slaves. I mean, it's not the law. It's only something you encourage morally. But there's nothing morally stopping someone from buying a slave. There's nothing morally stopping someone from buying a slave. Even in Mauritania right now, even though the government have officially got rid of slavery and outlawed slavery, a lot of Muslims there still participate in the slave trade. Even though human trafficking is a global problem and it crosses all religious boundaries, I'm just saying, this is justified by a lot of, people saying it's fine. So, you read the stuff and I'd be thinking, what the hell? How can you justify this? And then I was sort of in, cognitive dissonance, I'd try and hold the two things together. I tried to hold the two beliefs together, that, Islam is this beautiful spirituality that teaches personal responsibility and growth, and, looking at your character and reforming your character. Other time as is barbaric laws, which, although people can sugarcoat them, Jesus, to kill someone because they leave the religion, or or stoning to death an adulterer, or whipping someone because they've had sex outside marriage, cutting off the hand of a thief, even though the cutting off the hand of the thief thing is misrepresented. If someone's starving, steals bread or something like that, they're not going to get a hand cut off. But if someone steals a lot of money, I think it's above a certain limit, then, then they do. But chopping off someone's hand? Damn, man. Let's say they turn around their life. How are they gonna provide for their family? You just cut off one of their hands. Jesus, I'd read things like this and it would really disturb me, and the answers were not satisfactory. The answer would just simply be, well, God said this, that's the way it is, so that's the way it is, whether we like it or not. And as I said before in the previous video, people get very aggressive and very abrupt and very much try to shut down your inquiry. They try to shut down inquiry by saying, what, do you think you know more than God? Do you think you know more than Prophet Muhammad? Do you think you know more than... I've had people literally say this. Do you think you know more than the sheikh about it? Or sheikh, sorry. Or sheikh, you can call either one, who are basically scholars of Islam. Do you think you know more than them about this? Well, what's happened to your mind? Why are you thinking it's about this? The marriage to Aisha, I haven't mentioned that. Sorry. Yeah, I'm married, according to Hadith, he married Aisha when she was 6 and consummated the marriage when she was 9. I could not effing believe it when I read that. I went to an imam, like writing people. I was honestly on the verge of having a panic attack. Well, I actually was, having panic attacks over this. I started asking people, and one brother was a Sufi, so I assumed he's very spiritual and would think, very hard about this. He just said to me, well, it's our prophet, what if our prophet's done it, and, it's alright. I was like, what the fuck? He's married at, had sex with a 9-year-old. What the hell? Then I looked into it, and then there's opposing opinions that people say, no, she wasn't 9, even though that hadith says that if you look at other evidence about her age, she was closer to 15, 16. I looked into evidence for myself at the time, and I actually did believe that. And I don't actually remember how I looked into it, but I did actually look into it, and I did actually believe that at the time. And maybe I'll look back into it just to confirm it wasn't wishful thinking on my part. But there are people who do believe that she was 15, 16. It is disputed that she was 15, 16. But that's another thing, that even if you believe that he slept with a 9-year-old and you're justifying it, Jesus, sleeping with a 9-year-old? Come on, dude. Do that. So that's my personal opinions of problems within the community. Problems with inquiry into Islam.